Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. Returning to the show this week is friend Erin Albrecht of J&R Tile in San Antonio, Texas. And we've got a very special episode for you today. Erin's going to get very, very vulnerable with us and admit something that I think most people would try and hide. So she had over $100,000 embezzled from her company. And this is a concern that many, many contractors have of, I can't trust anyone to do my books because this is the thing that everyone is worried about. And Erin's going to talk about it. She's going to talk about it openly. And if I see any negative comments from anyone on any of the content that I put out, I will immediately ban you. I'm not even kidding. This is nothing to like joke or laugh about. This is something that really happened, is really a concern. She's willing to talk about it when most people wouldn't be. And there are lessons to be learned from this conversation. And I know I'm not even really truly concerned, but I will put that warning out there. This show is for people that want to get better at business and be educated. And I know that's why you're here and listening, is so that you don't have to do this. And I'm so grateful she's willing to share this story so that we can all have better businesses and better hiring practices and better accounting and bookkeeping practices. And so I'm really excited to get into this. It took me a little bit of convincing to get her to do this. Not a lot, but a little bit. And we've waited months to make it happen, but I'm really excited to share this story. I think it's absolutely amazing on how the journey through it, to be honest, is there was a lot of ups and downs, but everything has, we landed up and that's all that matters, is we're going to keep on trucking. So before we get started, Floor Academy is here every week to help you grow your business. This is to give you a lifestyle lift from where the average contractor is so that you can run a more profitable, more efficient, and free up your time so you can do the things you really want to do in your life, as opposed to doing the things you're forced to do through your business. And actually, we will have a discussion about that within this show, of being trapped in your business and how that affects you mentally and how it affects your company. This is going to be a really good one, everybody. We have a quick word from Chronosoft, and then I will have Erin give a quick intro for everyone that doesn't know her. If you're looking for an easy and affordable way to manage your business, Kronos Flooring Software is your solution. Streamline your workflow for managing leads, inventory, and scheduling installations. It includes every feature needed to support your business at a very affordable price. It's extremely user-friendly and easy to navigate. Full integration with QuickBooks Online makes tracking your profitability as easy as clicking a button. Visit Kronosoft.com today to schedule a demo. That's KRONUSSOFT.com. Let them know I sent you over. You will enjoy this software. It is built by a retailer for the flooring industry to solve the issues he saw with the software being built by companies that build software. This is not software built to fit in an industry. It's built by an industry for an industry. I guarantee you're going to like what you see. They are us. They are the small mom and pop shop trying to make it happen. And they've dumped tons of money into making this software for themselves. And they are now releasing it out to everybody else because it works. So go give them a look. Again, Kronosoft.com, KRONUSSOFT.com. That's enough out of me. Erin, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
I'm Erin Albrecht. I am a second generation contractor of an owner of J&R Tile in San Antonio, Texas. I recently purchased the company in November 2021 when my stepdad Johnny and my mother, Johnny was the founder, and J&R was my uncle Raymond. That's what J&R stands for. So we're a 5-star contractor down in San Antonio, Texas. We do just tile and stone. Why I do it, it is a family legacy that I am very proud to try to, carry forward down here in South Texas. We work all over the state, and we do some traveling out of state for installation design showcases at coverings, things of that nature.
All right. Always a great topic. You've built a powerhouse down there. JNR is recognized. You're a 5-star contractor with the NTCA, and I know you're renewing that under their new terms. Amazing projects
Accredited.
with
We are approved accredited 5-star contractors. We're proud to say we went through that process too. We're an accredited 5-star contractor. One of
beautiful.
the few that have done that so far.
Many
A lot of
highlights within Tile Letter and other publications. Just you're knocking it out of the park down there. I know a lot of people look up to your business and how you run it. And so again, for you to share this is, I know it's not easy because everyone's going to be like, oh, like, how did
Yeah,
that happen to
Kyle,
you?
it's not easy, and Kyle really made me realize that the reason I wanted to talk about this today is to help other contractors, and that's my intention. Um, this is something that can happen to anyone. This has been a family business, and the books had been kept by, my mother, Christine, for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And might as well dive into it, huh,
Yeah,
Kyle?
yeah, and that's where we start, right? Is you bought the business from mom and dad, and
Mm-hmm.
mom had always been doing the books, but they were looking to step away. And
That's
we know, look, if anyone's looking on how to hire people, that you can go back and listen to the interview we did with Erin called Mock Employee Interview, and she kicks my butt in that process. But she's got a solid hiring process, and so that's really where this journey begins. Is that
Yeah.
mom and dad were looking to leave, and somebody was going to have to do these books.
So it was a critical void that we needed to fill. And this was not just okay, mom's out, we hired the new person, they're in. It was a lot of people that were interviewed with a pretty strenuous job interview questionnaire for everybody that came, background checks, running social security numbers, calling old employers. I mean, we ran the gamut and did everything that we thought we had done right on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the individual had at that time produced a fake social security card, and resume had contacts that when we called were set up to tell us what we of course wanted to hear. So people like that are out there, and there were a lot of other good hires that we could have went with, and unfortunately we picked one that turned around and bit us. So the transition
Mm-hmm.
for Chris, my mother, actually stayed here for 2 to 3 months. So they were working together, and it was a slow transition into where Monica is her name. Monica took control of the books, never accessed any of our cash, didn't have logins to certain information, but still wound up embezzling over $100,000. So, you know, the safeguards that you can put in initially in the hiring process, um, you really have to dig a little deeper than you even think. Researching companies, making sure that they really exist, finding out what the CEO's name, and if, contacting someone else, asking for the direct contact of who she worked with, or, you really have to dig in to make sure that someone's not falsifying documents when it's coming to work, anyone that would be coming into your company and working in a financial capacity,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that is what can ruin you. And this individual that we onboarded, Monica is her name, came in, and the whole team loved her. And we're really big about culture at J&R Tile. We couldn't be a, you know 5-star contractor. We couldn't win the awards that we do if we didn't have a really great team surrounding us. And everybody loved and trusted this woman. And that's probably the most gut-wrenching part of this, was how incredibly upset and bewildered our team was when we had to tell them what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, initially that hiring process and everything was going, you know, well in terms of financial reports and things that administratively I was needing to review weekly with Monica. And as time progressed, she was with us less than a year. That's how quickly this all happened. The numbers just weren't making sense. We weren't really meeting our
B-
marks
bef-
profitability wise on our projects.
Before we dig into that,
Sure.
I want to.
Go ahead.
So there's a couple of things you mentioned, right? Like you did all of your due diligence. You checked Social Security. You did a background check. You called references. You did all the right things that an employer does, and yet she still slipped through the cracks. Mom worked with her for 2-3 months on how to do all of this stuff, and
Competent. Great bookkeeper. Yeah,
she's amazing at what she does. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to get away with it. But I think
that's right.
that's the takeaway here is like, I don't know that you're always going to be able to stop everyone, no matter how good your practices are. This lady was a professional, and it came out like, as that when the news broke, it wasn't that Erin or anyone at the company discovered it. They found out because somebody else was complaining about this lady in a news article. Like somebody wrote up this
In
article
San Antonio. So
from.
do you want me to tell them how it happened, how I found out?
Yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that things aren't quite adding up, and financially we're not profitability wise meeting our goals on certain projects. Costs are going over on certain projects, and I couldn't really pinpoint what it all was because financially speaking, when we would sit down and go over job costing, everything was on Excel sheets and was given to me in certain reports. So tracking that was difficult. So I'm feeling a little uneasy, a little wondering what's going on. And I go home one evening. It was a Friday afternoon, and my wife Jess was in the bathtub and she starts screaming. And I thought something bad happened in the bathtub. I don't know. So I run into the master and she shows me her phone and there's a picture of Monica's face on it talking about this bookkeeper that had embezzled money from a fence company. They're actually friends of mine now, believe it or not, Superior Fence here in San Antonio, um, because we worked the case together with the
Mm-hmm.
FBI when they got involved. So at that point, when the news article came out in our local San Antonio Express newspaper, if y'all want to look up Monica Padilla, she's all over the news. Um, that was the first time I found out. So I dropped absolutely everything, jumped in my truck, and sped over to J&R Tile, and just ran into her office, started logging in. I found out the computer was completely wiped, and she actually stole her personnel file as well. So anything that had been produced and given to me in terms of any kind of financial reports, anything that had been happening on that device, on her work computer, had been completely erased. The computer had been wiped. And I was immediately looked at our bank account and I was seeing Cash App wires to strange places, thousands and thousands of dollars, because she had found out that we had found out. So she was trying to get as much as she could out before I called the bank and put a stop hold on everything and had to switch all my account numbers and completely shut. It was a lot
Mm-hmm.
of housekeeping and damage control, and really a feeling of being violated. Not just for me, but my entire team. This is a person that you see every single day that pretends like they love and care, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
mama bear, if you will, around the office. I'm not the type of woman that gives a lot of hugs and you know, sweetie, honey, darling, this and that. She was kind of that type of woman that I wasn't, which I thought was a great dynamic for us, right? It almost that vulnerability that you feel after being violated is something that we dealt with as a team here for quite some time. And of course, for myself as the owner, took a lot for me to get past, a lot for me to get past. So
Hmm.
in terms of housekeeping and finding out the damage, I think it took us weeks to get to the end of the rabbit hole there, working with our local police and then eventually the FBI. So Kyle, Kyle's mastermind group and my wife really helped get me through that dark time. I would come to our mastermind meetings, and if I didn't have Kyle and my group members with me trying to get me through and focus on the business instead of focusing on the situation, I don't think we'd be in the position that we are at the end of 2023. This happened in February 2023.
Hmm.
So big picture, it was not that long ago
No,
that this had that
when
this had
this,
happened.
yeah, when this airs, it'll be still less than a year. There's a lot to this, and I can't agree more. The only way that I can really, you know, sympathize with the situation and put it in there is like I made a really poor decision in my 20s when I was selling weed and got busted, and so the cops came in after that, and they were able to like search my entire apartment. Well, they don't clean up after themselves. So like I came back and the entire place was like torn apart, and I just felt, you feel violated. Something happened in your personal space that you can't fix, and everyone went through your stuff and saw everything. And not that I had anything to hide, but it's a very weird feeling to be in your own space that's supposed to feel very, very comfortable, and yet nothing feels right in it. And I think that's what you're trying to say, is that the company was still going. Nothing changed other than this one person did something, but mentally, physically, emotionally, everything feels off because of what they did. And it really messes with your head for a long time. Like I didn't sleep right in my place for like a week, even though everything
Yeah.
was back where it was. And I know that this went on longer than that for you. And it's because it was ongoing, right? I had like one thing happen, and then I was able to clean it up and move on, even though there was still like a court case and all of that. But like you had to dig through months and months of records and talk to the cops and talk to the FBI and go over the story 800 different ways, talk to the other companies that were affected and their owners, and figure out it just doesn't
Oh,
go
and not
away.
to
It was
mention,
the
Kyle,
focus.
giving and producing all of the data and facts in a thumb drive and a giant banker's box printed
Hmm.
out to bring to the FBI to their San Antonio office, because you can't take your cell phone in there, you can't take a laptop. It is, a very secure area. So just getting all the information to the authorities so they could do their job took an extremely long
Hmm.
time. Um, and you can't help but just be, and when I say that dark place, like I was just so angry and resentful, and I like, you can get fixated on something when you're upset or angry and
Hmm.
you can't get away from it. And that was a couple, right, Kyle, at least a couple months for me
Well,
that
yes.
I was
Yes.
having a really hard time pulling myself out of it. Same thing, couldn't, having a hard time sleeping, feeling like almost like somebody's out to get you. Like, what's next? Is she going to try to bust into our new account numbers? Or, you're
Hmm.
changing the locks on the doors, right? Like, what I didn't mention is after the news article came out, she never came back. She wiped the computer, stole her personnel file, and that was her last day at JNR. When she knew that article was coming out and we were going to see it, she grabbed everything she possibly could have of hers and covered her tracks and left.
Hmm.
That also felt like a massive violation, right? Like you knew this was all coming to the end. Like the last thing you say to our team or myself is it's hard to imagine that this human being is 100% criminal. right? Like when you know an individual, I still, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe if you would have seen the situation and the environment and the atmosphere and how the team had embraced her, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It was really difficult for the entire company.
Well, and again, you have to keep living in this, right? And I think that's where the fixation comes in, is you can't even, you know better than to do it, and yet you're almost forced to live through these situations. And I think that's where
Right,
you can't
because
do
you're
business
still
by
working.
yourself.
You're still looking at producing paperwork for the police, or oh yeah, that was the job that this happened because Monica was still here, right?
Hmm.
It was always a, oh yeah, that was that job because this had happened and we don't have this information because that computer's wiped, right? So it was always like, oh, again, and she's like still tormenting us and it's 6 months after, that
Hmm.
kind of thing. It was just for a long time a just a continuous pain in the ass, and you just get angry every time. And it took me a while to get out of that angry, vulnerable state. I mean, I'm being very vulnerable right now, but
Hmm.
um, to get out of that anger and that dark place and actually focus on the team, the business, and that what I think I'm best at, pointing us in the right direction and where we're going from here. And that vision and focus was just gone. All of my energy was spent into how are we going to get back at this woman, right?
Well, there was that as part of it, and I also know that you went very micromanaging, and
That was the
everything
biggest
became,
problem.
that was the biggest side effect of this, was that you stepped back, and you have amazing systems and processes in place to let the company be able to, I know that you just went on a 2 week honeymoon and the company ran fine. In fact, maybe it ran better, right? Like, I think that's one of the scariest things that some people don't realize,
Probably,
is that
probably.
when you move out of the way, they all start doing things that you were like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know we could be this successful. And
When you
so,
have a great team and they know what their job is, it's amazing how they can just do their job and everything goes great. But when
yeah,
you're in micromanaging and asking a million questions, you're disruptive. And I was being disruptive in my own company at that point.
yeah, it got to the point, and I look, again, I understand it. Everything went so bad. It was like, I have to touch everything now because I can't trust anything.
Anybody or anything. Right.
And yet that was exactly what it was all built on. And so to have to realize one bad hire doesn't mean the entire batch is bad. There was a lot to like work through. And so where did that kind of come in? I know part of it was your mom came back in. So your mom, Christina,
Yeah,
came back
mom,
in.
Chris came back in to help, which was, of course, a sigh of relief. And now it was, okay, damage control. Let's go down this rabbit hole and finally figure out how this happened and make sure it doesn't happen again,
Hmm.
right? So uh, our our bank here, our commercial bank, Frost Bank, big Texas commercial bank down here in South Texas and actually through the state. My banker came in and we sat down. We put some safeguards in place that made me feel a lot more in control financially to make sure that there was check washing that was going on. Just so everyone can understand how this happened, there was check washing. So if Trinity the heel or myself doesn't physically sign a check here, we're kind of old school. Like it's not, that check didn't come from J&R Tile. So certain checks were run through electronically because she knew our account numbers were run through electronically with fake like D&B Tile, like people we don't do business with, like fake names so it would look like it was. So that was part of it. But the biggest part was credit cards.
Hmm.
And just we have an American Express card and a business Visa card with really high limits. And she was really creatively making that work in her favor. producing financial reports to me and allocating job costs through those credit cards versus me actually seeing the physical statement when it came through the mail was one of the things that she was able to take advantage of me for. But when I had something come to me in a professional Excel sheet present with it already job costed down
Hmm.
to the penny, when I knew what the balance was, it made sense in my eyes because I did something wrong. I trusted that individual without checking those statements to make sure they would at least match up, right? Like those corporate credit card statements that come in, you need to don't just pay the balance, don't just pay the minimum. Go through charge by charge and make sure that they're actually going to your business. Things can, we have 20 employees here. We're not a small shop. We're not a big shop where
Hmm.
I'd say we're pretty medium size. But there's lots of parts and pieces and projects and things that are going on at the same time. So you can easily miss things, or it started off very slowly, right? Like what she could get away with slowly with charges and putting them under different names, right? It was all like a mastermind of what the charges said. And even when I was able to see the statements, hindsight, it wasn't, you could tell that they weren't for our projects. And she was producing documents that said they were. That is where a lot of that money
Hmm.
went missing. But it was like death by a thousand cuts, right? It wasn't like big chunks of money every month. It was like, I don't know, 15, 20 grand every month mixed in with all of our projects and people and budget. So it was maybe not even 20. I would have to do the math. Like it progressively got worse. And then
Hmm.
toward the end, of course, it got terrible because she needed to try to get the most out of us that she could when it hit the newspaper
Yeah.
before we could come back and get access to accounts and completely shut everything off and change all our credit cards and change all of our bank accounts. And Trinity and I spent, I don't know how many weekends at the bank going through old checks, trying to just highlight and identify weren't what wasn't ours.
Hmm.
So, get in really get get that relationship with your personal banker, whoever that is. Make sure that that relationship's strong. And you will find that there are a lot of systems and processes in place that you're probably not taking advantage of with your current bank that can help you protect yourself from something like this in the future. If you hire a bookkeeper or if you bring someone on your staff that may have access or may not have access to critical financial information, they may come across with it. They may come across it, I mean,
Hmm.
and have not the best intentions. So keeping a close eye, not just on your bank account, but on anything financially, purchase orders, credit card purchases. I mean, you just really administratively need to have systems and processes in place where you can see with transparency everything that's going on financially.
Yeah. And
And we now have that. And I thought we were pretty good about that before, but a professional came in here and showed us that we had some improvements to do.
mhm,
And if anything, I think it's made us stronger.
for sure. You have better systems and processes in place, right? The
That's
only
right.
way to make something better is to find out it's broken. And
Screwed up.
it got broke and now it's fixed. And so I think the big takeaway here is, I like that you said you need to review the actual statements and kind of go through them line by line. And I don't know that it's necessarily to that level. If we're running a big enough company and as the company grows, there needs to be checks and balances. And if you're spending all the time going over transactions line by line, you're not necessarily trusting that. You might as well just do it yourself at that point, right? And so there's this fine line of being able to delegate something out and trust somebody but still having an idea. And so you need to know where the projects are at, how much you're kind of spending, and you know you should be able to scan it and pick up real quick. Like I know there's a lot of DoorDash that was happening just from our conversations through this, right? So
That's
like,
right.
had you gotten the
Under
actual statement, you
under
could have
different,
found
yeah,
it.
right. But it was, DoorDash by a thousand cuts
Correct.
and
But it would have.
Walmart by a thousand cuts.
It
And
Yeah.
a trip to Disney World we didn't even know about, like
Jesus. It's crazy. But like that stuff would have stood out as with a quick scan of it, because you would have been like, well, that's not our distributor and
that's
that's not our
right.
vendor.
That's right.
You need to be able to
I'd say
find a
item
way to
by
do
item,
it quick.
but yeah,
Yeah.
you can review and glance pretty quickly and see if something doesn't add up.
and
That's right.
and I also know that, like when I was going to set up with my bookkeeper and stuff, she wanted access to the bank accounts, and it was going to cost me a little extra, and I didn't really want to pay it at the time. But you can pay for a separate login with most banks, if not all banks, that a bookkeeper or accountant can use, but they get read only access. They can only go
Correct.
in and they can only look at the transaction history and the statements. They can't move money, they can't send money, they can't do anything. And so a lot of the concerns that I know contractors have in general in our industry, when we start even having these discussions, they're like, they're just going to take all my money. You don't have to give them your credit cards. You don't have to give them access to be able to move money around. They only need the stuff to be able to put the numbers together, which you can give them just paper statements at a minimum. If you want to give them digital access, you can probably set up logins everywhere that only give read only digital access. I would assume the credit card companies have something along the same lines. It just so happens that the way that J&R is run, as most larger companies are, is that employees generally get access, especially when they're higher up and in a position of authority like that, in order for Monica to do her job, she needed to be able to spend money in areas that made sense, not any way she wanted, which was what she did. But it's pretty normal. And so it doesn't surprise me that the opportunity was there, and it was little changes, because I know that she wasn't bringing you Excel spreadsheets at first, and she wasn't doing Excel spreadsheets with mom. It was probably like little changes over time of like, hey,
Right.
look at this new way I'm doing this. And
Which to me showed self-improvement and growth,
mhm,
right? Like, and showing initiative. So I appreciated that.
yes,
But then it was, oh, I'll get the mail. I'll open all the mail every day. Oh, great. I don't have to fuck with it. Perfect, right?
yeah, it,
That's probably one thing you should be doing every day if you're a business owner is opening your own mail.
sure. I like it's super simple, right? It's the little things that are going to matter. If you need to keep an eye on things, that's one way that you can do it. And maybe it goes to, we find a trustworthy personal assistant. You have to let go of certain things, and it depends on where you're at and where you're trying to scale and go. But you have to have some kind of pulse on the things, and be able to keep track. And I think that's the biggest thing. Is I think a lot of us think that you kind of, it's like the old Ron Popeil rotisserie, like Showtime rotisserie barbecue, and you just set it and forget it. That's not what we're trying to do in business. I want to be able to set things up so that I don't have to put as much mental energy there, right? I want to delegate out tasks to save me time so I can focus on what I'm best at, which is generating revenue or leading the company in a certain direction, and let other people do what they're really good at. It doesn't mean that I have to completely let it go and never touch it again, but I have to be able to trust them to do most of it. And I'm going to come back and check in weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever that time frame needs to be. And so one of the big things is, I know that after all of this happened, is that you went and got a master class from your mom in accounting, because
Oh, yeah.
you understood the basics.
I did not know as much as I should have.
Yes.
Um, in 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 that financial branch going in. I mean, I knew what I needed to know. I knew the basics, but to have a comprehensive overall knowledge of how the system works was really important for me.
Hmm.
And I think that's really important for any business owner is to understand how the process works in your individual accounting system. We don't run QuickBooks. We run a program called Computeries. It's for construction. It's a construction software, and it's a little antiquated, but it is pretty foolproof. You can't make things up. There's quite a bit to it, and I didn't know the things that I did until after this happened, where I could go in as Monica did before and produce a document, produce a report, accounts receivable, accounts payable, where we're at with everything, general ledger,
Hmm.
just making sure that I could produce information that was actual and real was really important, especially after I didn't know what I was looking at. When somebody's cooking your books and you take a 6-digit hickey, damn right, first thing you want to do is understand
Yes.
that accounting software,
Well, maybe. I mean, a lot of people might have decided to quit. And,
probably.
and a lot of companies, a six-figure hit would just ruin them. But you're still here, and you're still profitable for the year, and all that good stuff, which is amazing. I got to interrupt this real quick, and so we got a quick word from Johns Manville. Compatible with all GoBoard products is the new GoBoard membrane. If you're asking why a membrane when GoBoard itself is waterproof through and through, the answer is simple. A membrane extends your GoBoard installation for mud pans, steam rooms, and shared walls requiring a fire-rated board under the waterproofing. Now, who's going to be the most badass installer out there? You are. Nope. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for all the products and details. Don't forget about their wedges. And there is elusive like thicker Go board out there. It's not just 1/2 inch. They do have like 2-inch board, and you can get it. Just go ask your supplier. They'll order it in, and then you can build your really cool benches and stuff like that out of it. It's just hidden. You gotta ask, which you should be doing anyways, because you want to know what number one lesson in life: you don't get what you don't ask for, and no doesn't hurt. So that's the tip for today, besides everything we're getting out of Erin here. All right, so getting back into it, we got a master class. We learned how to actually do, not that you didn't understand basic addition and subtraction and stuff like that, but you started learning how the program worked, and you learned how to produce your own reports, really follow the money, see how it was interacting with itself, and how to track the profitability a little bit better besides the spreadsheets you're already using. But now you have a clearer picture that you don't need. I mean, you need the someone to do the bookkeeping so that it's getting done, and you don't have to worry about it, and someone else in the company doesn't have to worry about it. But you can double check them. You can hold somebody accountable, which is, I think, super important. And the biggest thing that was missing before was that you thought you and your mom thought you had provided accountability by all the due diligence you had done. There was a step missing in that mom wasn't there to protect you anymore, and you didn't have
Well,
all that knowledge.
that's right. And keep in mind, remotely, our accounting software is cloud-based, as well as our construction software we use for field works, and everything we do is cloud-based. So mom still had an eye on everything from the ranch, like it's not like she wasn't checking in
Mm-hmm.
or also wasn't involved. She just wasn't physically here and in the role, but was still looking, which is even more alarming that we had this got past 2 people. Um,
It can happen though.
I,
You see
I
stories
mean,
like
it
this all the
did.
time, right?
It
It's
did. I was keeping an eye on it. She was too, and I mean, it still happened. So I would say, one thing that I've learned is there's a lot of really great fractional CFOs, chief financial officers that do bookkeeping services for a number of different companies because a lot of times it isn't a full-time job.
mhm.
And it doesn't take a 40+ hour week to get these things done. She had other duties assigned to her besides just bookkeeping. Um, we have she was kind of receptionist as well, the person that picked up the phone, which really made it even more difficult, right? Because how embarrassing, everybody that knew her here that we do business with, we had to let know, that she wasn't with us anymore. And when
Mhm.
they ask what happened, you got to tell them why. You're not going to lie to your partners and your colleagues. So, you know, uh, it's it's tough to have a little mud on your face and eat some humble pie, but I think that, honesty is the best policy, and letting people know that that happened to us and we're
Hmm.
not going anywhere. And we're finishing the year out strong, and 2024 is looking really, really good for us. Actually, probably our biggest year since we've been in business with us and the work that we've put in Q4 2023.
Hmm.
So it's you can have safeguards in place, but hiring a professional bookkeeping company or a professional CFO is also a really great idea, because a business doesn't steal from another business. A person steals. An individual steals.
Yes.
Businesses don't steal. Well, I'm sure some
Uh,
businesses steal, but
no, I mean, I
most
think
businesses
it's a good point.
that do it for a living don't. This is what they do professionally. It won't be an individual that has access to all of your information focused on your things.
Hmm.
And really, when they're present, I think that they earn that trust from you a little more. I think that's just human behavior. When you have contact, and you and your entire company has contact with an individual every day, and trust and friendship has evolved, and it's human nature to try to trust,
Hmm.
and just got to be careful with that.
Yes, and look, you're not going to be able to run a larger company without trusting other people. It's just, and that's the biggest struggle that we all have to get over is, oh, nobody can do it as well as I can. Lots of people can do it better than you can. You just have to let them. And that's, you let somebody that was better at, like, she's amazing at what she did. There is the, I know that Erin will agree with this. She's so good at what she does that she can fool you into believing that everything is accurate. She's that great of a con person that if she would have put her talent into legitimate bookkeeping, she could probably be running a company doing, millions of dollars in business by hiring other people to work under her. And yet she took the easy route to say, hey, I'm just going to, like, skim off the top here at all these companies and get what I want very quickly, as opposed to putting in the hard work to grow and become successful and, have something that pays more than what she was taking. It blows my mind,
Yeah,
but she was so good at it
grow with
that
grow with the business, you know.
it's crazy. But she was good. It wasn't that
She
she's
was
a bad
really
bookkeeper. She's a great bookkeeper. She just used
great
her power
bulky
for evil.
and a great actress.
Hmm.
I mean, nominated. She should have done one or the other, right?
Something. And so I guess, to kind of get back on track, keep moving the story forward, right? You get through everything, but there was like months of you really being in even afterwards, like once it was still kind of settled, like months of you weren't you weren't your tenacious self. Again, you kind of went into this micromanaging phase that I was able to see from afar. And
I felt beat up, Kyle. I felt like I got my ass kicked. And the only way I could think of recovering was get my hands in everything all the time. And I think I was driving my team crazy,
mhm,
and it was nothing personal. It was, for me, that is what I thought was going to work in damage control mode. And that was the exact opposite of what I should have been doing. And it was months. It was cyclical, right? Right when I could think I was getting on the right track, I'd find something else that would track back to Monica, and then I would start obsessing about it all over again. And then it got to the point where, I mean, my guys still send me screenshots of, her at partying somewhere, and
mhm,
like they're so mad. Like I have removed myself from trying to think about this person, where my whole team is still so upset, like they're, you know, in her business and seeing what's going on, where I've had to just kind of put the blockers up and,
mhm,
and put the blinders on, and just, okay, heads down, focused on the business. That's the best thing I can do for the business. It's the best thing I can do for everybody at this company and for us to stay strong and move forward. But it took months, and it took a lot of support from my mastermind group and my wife,
mhm.
who, let's face it, is like in my mastermind group every night, every
I know
every other Tuesday,
I know
every
she's
other
there
Tuesday
listening
anyway.
in a little bit. Yes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it took some time, and it was hard. I know, because at one point I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I know you run a better business than this, and you put all these systems and processes in place. Why are you spending time focusing on all the $20 an hour jobs when you should be out there focusing on the $1,000 an hour projects? And
You can't think clearly when you're frazzled, you
Mhm.
know? Like it's hard to think clearly when you're angry and you're frazzled and you've got that resentment and you just still feel so vulnerable that you are trying to just deflect everything and catch something before it happens. It just very unhealthy behavior and very opposite of how I usually carry myself.
Well,
And it was good. It was good for my group to actually call me out on it, Kyle especially because he does that, thank God. Um,
well,
letting me know like this is not who you are. This is not how you run your business, and you're regressing. You cannot let someone, you can't take a hit and regress. You've got to keep going and you've got to focus on the business, which is exactly how I got out of it.
it was a big change. I mean, honestly, I could see on your face, and again, it was like a digital slap across the face to you, right? And it shocked you that I said it, but at the same time, you took it very well and in stride, and you were like, okay, you thought and you processed on it for a minute, and then you were able to come back and you were like, no, you're right. This isn't going to work this way. Like, I have to move on. And it was a changing point, and everyone was kind of there seeing it, and they were like, yeah, like, nah, this has got to end. And I,
And I think anybody that's not involved in your groups in the master classes really need to know that, I mean, this happened in February, and Kyle, you've been talking to me about doing a podcast, to help others and I think it will,
Mhm.
and showing that this can happen to anybody. I I think that that group is just such a safe place to be vulnerable. And, like I wanted anybody in our industry to know that this happened to us. Hell no. But to be able to go and talk to a group of other professionals across the country that really care about you and you see and have FaceTime with, and all you do is focus on your business together and try to help each other with with feedback after talking about what's going on in your business every 2 weeks, I don't, there wouldn't have been there's no other place like that. There's no other place like that in the industry. I've got my 5-star group. We have our summer meetings. I've got some close colleagues, but that direct focus and that commitment
Mhm.
that group has every other week, and they truly care about who you are. They know who you are. They know about your business. They know your trouble spots. They know what you're great at, and it's just sharing information and caring about each other. I wouldn't have made it through it, Kyle, without that
It,
group. That's one of the
I
reasons I'm on
appreciate
this
that.
podcast. That's one of the reasons I'm on this podcast today. People need to know that there's help out there, and it's it's invaluable. It's invaluable for me to be able to discuss that and pull myself up from the bootstraps is all about that team and that group. And of course, Jess that stayed on me to focus on the
Mhm.
business and remind me what my goals were that we wrote down, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, you don't get to stop working on your goals because you had a hiccup. That's the opposite of what you should be doing. And if I wasn't hearing that week after week, I don't think I'd be having the conversation of ending 2023 strong right now.
I agree. You can't do business by yourself, folks. You can get so far, but at some point you need accountability partners. You need people to challenge you to go to the next level, and that's what Erin is saying. Is there? She has contacts, but there's a difference in when you buy into a group, and the conversations they're having is this wasn't just a business conversation. We talk about the personal things going on. If someone's getting divorced or a death in the family or kids are like whatever is affecting your life, this all
Or having a
affects your
baby like
business.
Van did.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It all affects everything going on because they are all interconnected. Your life is not just, we talk about this work-life balance, and I've done episodes on it. There's not one or the other. There's just Kyle's life. There's just Erin's life. There's just your life. They are all interwoven, and it all affects itself. You can't. I like pride myself on being an emotionless robot, and my wife gives me a hard time about it. It doesn't exist. Like I know that truly deep down, and it's something I'm working on to like be able to get from one side of things to the other and connect them and have it all flow more succinctly. But it's you're going to run into issues and you're going to need people to talk to them about, because processing it yourself, Erin would still be a hot mess, guaranteed. She's already said it. Had she been left to her own devices to just sit there and wallow in the self-pity and the being upset, like her team kind of still, and not that they're not doing great work and everything out in the field, but like they're still hung up and mad at Monica and sending her pictures. It's just like, stop. Like, I've moved on. We all have to let this go. Don't let it eat you up. And I think that's a lot of times what happens, is that we get caught up in our own head and we let this cycle just continue, as opposed to looking for a way to step out of it. And so you got the digital slap across the face from the group. It woke you up and you said, fine, all right, I'm walking away. And you've walked away now, and it's been great. But what have you seen as the changes, right? Like, you've implemented, you have an outside source for doing bookkeeping now. You didn't bring somebody in full-time again or part-time.
Virtual, that's right. Virtual personal assistant, which has been a big deal.
Okay.
I think sleep, hello. The other two have helped with that. And, you know, giving myself a schedule and time blocking, that's something I'd really like to thank Ron Nash for. That has been a wonderful mentor to me through the years, and advised me on doing that with my time. And I found myself to be much more efficient. And this kind of happened during the Monica thing, where I started time blocking. Um, that really helps you focus on your business when you can think ahead of, okay, from 2 p.m. to 3:30 I'm with Kyle. From 3:30 to 4:30 we're working on Christmas bonus checks. From 4:30 to 5 I'm meeting with tech, and then we're going to dinner over, like I time block. I try to time block everything now. Keeps you on track and it keeps you focused. I think that's been a really good help as well. Along with the assistants you just talked about, Kyle, the outsourcing and the virtual assistant.
Yeah, which is great, right? There's somebody. Why are we doing things that we don't need to be doing? And it's not that you have to go and acquire all this stuff, right? This has been over years that you've learned this, built the company
when
up.
Your group is telling you you got quit doing $20 an hour tasks, and you're like, oh shit, I'm doing it again. You're right. You're right. Yeah, you have to be held accountable. If you don't have goals set, your business isn't growing. You shouldn't be in business if you're not growing your business. That's why we have them. It's not supposed to be a lifestyle business for an income. You're supposed to have goals set to grow your businesses. And that may look like a gross margin at the end of the year, or that may look like revenue year over year that you're trying to grow. And you can't do it yourself. If you're trying to grow your business, you cannot do it yourself. It's impossible. You have to have a good team around you and people that you trust and good processes in place. And that's where we are, and that's where we're headed in 2024. And I'm confident about it. I'm more confident now than I've ever been. And I'm proud to say that, and not proud to say that we had to, go through the ringer a little bit in February. And that was back in 2022 when a lot of this was happening, but we found out about it in February. The damage had been done at that point. But moving forward, I'm thinking February 2024, we'll be in a completely different place and scenario, and we look different. We have some great new hires I'm really excited about, and some apprentices that I think are just going to be superstars once they get the skill level and go through their apprenticeship. They're good fits for our culture, and that's a lot of what we talk about in our groups too. What's your culture look like? Shouldn't build a business without having these things in place, your core values and your mission statement. So, I challenge you guys trying to grow out there to get on board with getting the right pieces and and processes in place to get you where you want to be. Everybody wants to do a little better.
Well, I think that's where you were able to succeed in all of this, right? Is there was something to step back and look at and say, hold on, this is our foundation. And I've built so much off of it. I have to trust this and let it continue instead of continuing down this, like, well, I'm going to get in and mess up over here and I'm going to go stick my fingers in this and I'm going to go handle this thing over here. It was no, no, no. Like, we have core values, we have a mission statement, we have a vision statement. I know what we want to accomplish, how we want to accomplish it. I have people in place to accomplish these tasks. I have to let them do it. And I'm going to go find the ways for them to continue to do it. And so
That's right.
that's, you've been able to bring on more people. And so I think it's just stepping back, and we're not able to do that enough. You got very caught up in the day to day and you lost your 30,000-foot view. And that's where
You can't,
most
yeah,
contractors are at, is we're stuck with our 12-inch view because we're busy installing and your face is in the mud or in the, like,
you,
it's 12 inches from the floor.
that's where you lose that vision, that culture, that where are we going? Absolutely.
And you're not able to see it. And so to step back and look around is the important thing here. And I think that's what was able to change for you, is that you got caught up, you realized how important it is to step back, you found other
Oh,
people to trust, and then just in general, you didn't let one bad experience dictate how you trust people now, right? You're out there, you've made new hires, you trust them to go do what they've promised to do, and it's ever evolving. And so don't let
this
one
hasn't hardened
mistake.
me. Right. This hasn't hardened me. If anything, it has made me more appreciative of the team and staff that we do have. This is a good thing. This could have gone on a lot longer,
Mhm.
right? Like, we trim the fat, just like when you have to get rid of an installer or an apprentice that's not a good fit on your team, right? And they're just terrible for your culture. It's just, you cut the cancer out and you move on. We had a lumpectomy. That's all that happened around here.
That I
Had to cut it out.
and it's such a mature way to look at it. Again, I very proud of you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Love that you've been able to come out of this so positively, as opposed, like, again, a lot of companies would have gone under with that kind of money coming out of them, or they would have been like, I can't believe it, I can't trust anybody, I'm just going to go back to doing it myself. And you're like, nope, on to bigger and better things. We're going to add more people, we're going to take on bigger projects, we're going to go conquer San Antonio and maybe Texas, and we'll see where it goes from there. Like, it's inspiring to watch it happen, because a lot of people, like, it just mentally would have kicked their butt and they would have quit. So congratulations.
Thanks,
is
Kyle.
is there anything we didn't hit on that we need to point out, or something that you struggled with and you knew was like extra difficult, and we just need to hit on that real quick?
I think just having that trusted group that that you can have, it really gets you through and keeps you focused on your goals. I think that would be my big emphasis, whether that be your partner or a group of colleagues that you have. You're not alone. You do not have to figure everything out yourself. I have light bulbs go off every other week, and I implement things in my business just by learning from other contractors. And I think we're a pretty damn good contractor, and I'm still learning things from other people, and they're not even in the tile and stone business.
They
I'm
don't
really
even
grateful.
they don't even do
I'm
multiple
really
million
grateful for
dollars
that.
either. Yeah,
Hell,
it takes
one of them owns
everybody.
9 paint stores, and I learned from that guy. You
Yes.
know, from Canada.
Hmm.
So you never know what you can learn or take away from someone else, and actually how you can get back and help them. I'd like to think that I add some value to the group with systems and processes we have in place, and they do the same for me.
Definitely.
And that's really helped me stay on track with JNR. And I just, if our team's out there, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. Shane, Van, who'd I miss? I'm just kidding. I know all their business names now too.
Shane, Van, Paul,
Shane
and Reggie
and Vol
and
and
you.
Reggie. Reggie,
Yep.
I'm gonna cut his ponytail off one day.
We know we're gonna braid Shane's and Reggie's together for you. That's what we're gonna
That's
do.
right. That's what we're gonna do.
But no, I think it. Look, it takes a team, folks. Whether you want to do it through Floor Academy Business Therapy Mastermind Group or not, I would love to have you. But go find a group that works for you to go have accountability, to have somebody to do business with. Find a local mentor. Go ask, like, if there's I
There's a
use the
Vistage
example.
group out there. It costs $3,000 a month. I can tell you, I used to be a member of Vistage, and I find more value in my masterminds group than I did in my Vistage group. And I learned a lot in my Vistage group.
Hey, and we're,
But
we're only a sixth the price, so $500 a
yeah,
month, and she
for
was spending 3,000. So there it is.
for
But
a fraction of the cost.
if I say it all
You're
the
out
time,
there. You've got your
I use
yep.
the donut maker as an example, and I don't care if it's the donut maker, the guy that runs the car wash. If there's somebody that you respect in your community that's running a business and just killing it, or you see something they do, go stop, have a conversation with them, and ask. There's
Most of the time they love to help.
I guarantee it. If they are anything like every business owner that I think is successful loves to have the conversation of, oh, you want to do it better? Sure, I'm willing to help you. Like, they want to help you get there. I have not met many people that don't want to share, and honestly, the minute I learn they don't want to share, my opinion of them changes very quickly, and I'm not interested in working with them because there's something wrong with our personalities won't jive. It's not going to work. But it doesn't matter what business they're in. All of this stuff is translatable over to your business. Most of the lessons are easily convertible, and you don't have to, it doesn't matter what service you're doing. It just matters that you get the aspect correct. So go have the conversation and ask for help. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's,
Just have a little humility, as Reggie would say.
there you go. You got to be willing to admit that you don't know everything and be willing to grow. And I think that's the lesson behind all of this, is that we learned we don't know everything. We had a hiccup. We didn't
And don't
get
let it
stuck on it.
define you.
Yep.
Don't let a bad situation and something, negative or bad that happened to your business, don't let that define you or your business. And that was the mistake I made. I took it as a personal reflection of myself. It was my fault. I shouldn't have let this happen. I mean, that's why I went deep in the micromanaging, right? I took it so personally, just like everybody else did around here. And I had to realize as a leader, I couldn't. We wouldn't survive that way.
Yes. That's a great takeaway, is that you can't take it personally. And so why your business is not you, despite the fact your business is you. I know, I understand. I've created 3 at this point, and you get very tied up into it, but your business cannot define you. Go listen to the episode I just recorded with Ron Nash on exactly why that is the case. And it's a great episode. You define you. You are many things. Your business, you're not defined by one thing. I think that's where we're going to leave it. So if you're interested in a mastermind group, flooracademypod.com/mastermind, go check out the write-up over there. There's a video to watch about talking about them. Erin has great things to say. Other people have great things to say about them. But again, if you don't want to do it with me, you need to go do business with somebody. You can't be stuck in your own head, not externalizing things. That's what I'm really big on, is you can't internalize everything. Go get it externalized, write it down, say it aloud, have the conversation with yourself out loud instead of internally. It's going to make you do your business differently. Find a friend locally, do something, but stop doing business by yourself. Check out our store, get yourself a really cool Floor Academy podcast hoodie, t-shirt, socks.
Bikini.
I don't know. We took that down, but
Yeah.
if you really want one, I can put it back up. It exists for those that want to get wild and have a Floor Academy bikini or swimsuit. It is an option. What else do we got? You can help support the show at patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping me to continue to produce the content. Love my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Like, subscribe, leave a review. You're my marketing agency, and I cannot make this continue to happen and grow without your help. Tell a friend in line at the distributor that your business has been changed by the show, because I know it has been. Let them in on the good secret so that they can have a successful business. As all of the businesses in your area continue to grow and excel, your market will change. So don't tell me that it doesn't work in your area, and don't tell me that it's the illegals that are bringing it down, and don't tell me that, your clientele is that bad. Just change how all the businesses operate, and you can all change the market, and it'll be great. And even if you don't change everybody, you can change enough of you that you start finding better clientele, and you become more profitable, have more free time, and you actually enjoy what you're doing. That's going to do it for us. We got a quick word from the Surfaces event. So it just happened. I was just there, last week is when we were there. We were hanging out. We were having a great time. It was packed with amazing products and exhibits. So whether you were at the event or if you unfortunately missed it, the Tice team has released a lookbook covering a highlight of over 100 products that were featured at the show. You can access it now online at intlsurfaceevent.com/lookbook, LLOOKBOOK, lookbook, or click the link in the show notes. And we look forward to being able to hang out with everybody next year at the event. Don't miss some exciting stuff they have coming up. I know I don't even know everything. I know that something's going to be happening with Jennifer Farrell again, and so that news will be coming out later this year. In the meantime, take a look at the lookbook, see all the cool stuff that's coming out, know what's coming into your markets, so that you are ahead of the curve and you're not being handed materials that you don't understand and having to figure out. That's one of the great parts of going to the show, is you get to see everything come out before it's released, and then you can determine whether you want to work with it or not, or figure out how to work with it with the experts that are there and present. That's going to do it for us. Thank you, Erin, for joining us once again. Thank you for sharing this incredible story, being vulnerable and willing to put yourself out there and let people know that it's not all sunshine and roses. There is the dark side to doing business, and sometimes we have to run down that alley and get beat up a little bit, and then we come out fighting stronger than ever before.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Glad I did it.
You're welcome. We'll catch you all next week.